go.
Are we live?
Yes.
All right, so this is a running theme we're gonna aspire to. Barely structured bullshit.
Mhm.
I'm Tom. I'm one of the hosts. Uh, Winston, one of our co-hosts,
I
which
just
against God's will, might I add.
yes.
And our final co-host is Hab, who you have heard first.
Yes. And I also answer to hey idiot or hey you motherfucker.
We are
Doesn't that apply for all three of us?
I think it does.
Probably does.
All right. So, we are starting our pilot episode on the Czech or Bohemian creation myth. In front of you,
Piloting like the Titanic.
I don't think you pilot a boat. You captain a boat.
Does it really matter that much?
Yeah, it doesn't. Right in front of you is an image which we have scuffed slightly using an AI image upscaler. This image is a depiction of one of the many mythical and, quite frankly, insane scenes in Czech mystery and. Did I just say mystery instead of history?
Yes.
Mythos.
The Czech mythos. And if Hab were to so kindly click. And we are going to joke the ever-loving shit out of it and milk it for every single small laugh.
Milk it for every amount of bee-related product we can get out of it.
Yeah, every kind of fucking meme we can. Speaking of memes, there's a few running gags in Czech history you might be interested in finding out about. I can't keep a straight face. I can't.
Me neither, because I was editing this image.
Yes, we all were. This is a collective effort. Welcome to our first episode.
Now, before we actually start, we should emphasize that we're trying to cover history in a fun and a hilarious way. As you may have already noticed, we are not exactly taking history seriously. If you want some proper historical accuracy, I don't think that we are gonna provide you with that. But we should hopefully provide you with a lot of laughs.
Hopefully, we
Hopefully.
hope.
Yeah, I hope so. Now,
All right, so next slide. Many of you, my Winston included, because he's American, I believe,
Yep.
do not know where the Czech Republic is. Or if you do know, you think we are still Czechoslovakia. We are not. We actually broke up in 89, I think? Or was
93.
it 91?
93.
Yeah,
You
look
do
at
not
me.
remember the history of our own
No,
country.
I do not.
Nice.
Which is why I'm doing a podcast about Czech history. But
There's probably still Americans that think Germany is still east and west, so
I mean, it technically is because one side uses different light bulbs than the other.
Technically, I am the most historically qualified here, and I did not even take a degree. I only graduated from history, so what you should
none of
do
us are
is
professionals.
none of us are professionals. You should take all that we say with a grain of salt, and you can probably assume that we're gonna say a lot of these things wrong. Anyways,
Now,
here's the
speaking
map.
of saying things wrong, here's the map of the Czech Republic. We're bordering, as you might see, Germany, Poland, Austria, Slovakia.
And that's about it.
And that's about it. We do not have a sea, sadly. We're gonna get to who's responsible for that. We do not have any exciting mountains. We're gonna get to who's responsible for that. Hab, if you would pull up the text aid. We are quite a small country. We have a mediocre population, about as much as fucking American cities do. We also have an
We have
that's
quite a lot of
700
porn
porn stars in the whole fucking country.
Yeah, there is okay. So per 1 million people, there is around 700 porn stars, which is one of the things you might know Czech Republic for, is the beer,
obscene
the porn.
amount.
Yeah, Hab, I know. Obscene amount of porn,
Yeah.
obscene amount of beer. German beer is crap, and so is American beer and English beer. Fight me. We're also known for dubious politicians, the invention of the sugar cube, the contact lens, squeeze bore guns, nylon, political corruption, and one of our favorite local pastimes is throwing people out of tall buildings. Also porn
Yeah. A lot of
Does
and
it
porn.
have any mountains?
and ranked competitive alcoholism. Because if Hab were so kind as to reveal the next text field, the average Czech person consumes around 7 gallons of pure ethanol each year. This is pure ethanol. If you were to get into real sloppy detail, you might realize that most alcohol is like 30% or 50% proof, and that is like hard alcohol like vodka and rum.
Isn't
And
alcohol the one that gets you drunk and ethanol is the one that kills you or makes you blind?
Methanol is the one that makes you blind.
they're both alcohols.
Yeah, both alcohols, except methanol is way more toxic.
Yeah, they're both toxic. They're both poison. They're if I were to get into details, they would be neurotoxins because they attack the nervous system. Yeah, I'm a medical professional. This might bite us in the ass down the line.
This will bite us in the ass down the line.
Yeah, it will.
will.
Okay, so our pastimes include competitive alcoholism, and a lot of defenestrations. We are actually the country with most of them in history. According to our sources, our poorly researched sources.
We do have
Next
at
slide.
least 3 defenestrations, by the way. At
In
least
case
3.
you're American and you don't know what that word means, it means you take yourself and then you go through the window, through the glass bit, the sharp, pointy,
N-
breaky glass bit.
Okay, there's an important distinction there. Non-consensually.
There is also the term called auto defenestration, where you throw yourself out of the window, mostly by accident, but sometimes there may actually be some sort of an intention behind it.
But you said it needs to be non-consensual. Does it stop being a defenestration if you consent to being thrown through the window?
Why
Good-
would you consent to being thrown through a window?
Does it stop being a defenestration if you both consent, but Jesus doesn't consent?
We're asking the wrong questions here.
Asking all of the right questions, but there's no answers.
You're gonna have to ask someone more spiritually well-versed.
You do realize that we live on a fucking presbytery.
Yeah, and we know absolutely nothing about religion.
Yeah, because religion is bullshit. Anyway,
Our language is Czech, unfortunately, because as you can see on the map, the inside of the Czech Republic is actually written in Czech. Czech, of course, Czech. It
yes,
is
we're
divided into several regions, and for example, the region right under Prague is called Středočeský kraj. I think you can understand why we all despise this language.
because it sounds like chittering of angry, furious insects.
Which we
We
mostly
also-
are.
We will also get to why Czech is so bad in a future episode.
Hopefully.
Nothing like sequel baiting in the first fucking 20 minutes.
That's a very smart idea.
How you aren't going to reveal that one of the founding members of your language was the Model T one of the other people drove up in?
I mean, one of the people that was okay. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but there was a Czech national rebirth movement back when we were a part of Austria-Hungary, back before the First World War, and they were essentially right-wing nationalists. So this is also a running theme in our history. You might notice Czech history has a habit of repeating itself. There are many, many running themes, including defenestrations, emigrations, murder, and peasants ascending to high places of authority.
There
Next
were
slide,
there
please.
were a ton of peasant revolts.
All right. So, the creation myth. I'm going to ask you all a stupid. You're skipping ahead.
No, I couldn't stay for long on the text. I just couldn't control myself. This is going to help us.
I really cannot look at this with a straight face.
What do you think? I think this looks normal.
Okay.
I think this
So-
is perfectly fine.
I'm going to ask all of you a rhetorical question. Where do we start our story?
At the end because you're a pretentious twat?
What are you, some retard that answers rhetorical questions?
No, are you?
Yes.
Uh,
All right. So, we're starting at the very sort of beginning of Czech written history. By written, we are going off of 2 books of dubious historical accuracy. One of which, or both of which, are chronicles. And the first one is. Okay, Hab, you're gonna have to take over for me here.
okay,
Is it
sure.
the Dali Mills or is it Cosmos?
It was Cosmos's Chronicles, actually. Those appeared around the 12th century, whereas Delimil's Chronicles appeared around the 14th century. Those were written in Old Czech, and Cosmos's Chronicles were fully written in Latin.
Which things being written in Latin is also a common theme we're gonna come back to. It's also a common problem in Czech history. But these chronicles are both of dubious historical accuracy. I do believe Cosmas is considered more accurate by scholars, but they are still myths, they are still barely accurate, and thus are ideal research material for this podcast.
Of course.
Okay, so as you might see before yourself and will see for the rest of this episode, this is an image of the supreme forefather of the Czech nation.
Indeed, his
No-
name is Praotec Czech, in Czech at least, and we should mostly just refer to him as Brother Czech or just Czech. Because let's be real, translating old Czech terms is rather difficult, and I don't think any single one of us here is qualified to do that.
And it will be much harder on Winston to say the words.
Yeah, I don't know how to speak diesel engine.
I think this is more Czech is more like a single stroke fucking lawnmower engine. Right.
What, do you want me to just run out and buy a riding lawnmower and just direct it into the microphone?
And it would be fluent Czech for our outside listeners. But the thing with Mr. Czech over there is that, and once more I say, this is a running theme in Czech history, he was a migrant. Now, for depending on the book you ask, for 2 different and seemingly entirely valid reasons. First of which, if Hab could say,
The first of which reasons was that their former land, which was known as White Croatia, which was basically a very wide area going all the way from the Czech city of Ostrava to Ukraine, that their entire land was plagued with war, and as such they wanted to move away into a more peaceful land with more resources. However, the second reason sounds way more entertaining.
the second reason being that Praotec Czech, who is in all of these historical sources referenced as being an old man, murdered someone, was exiled, and then people just sort of started following him.
Oh boy. It is just hilarious trying to picture an old man just murdering someone. How would you go about that? What would you do?
Well, I think I have a historical quote here of Versooth, that why yo mama dead as hell. What shoes she got in on her casket? That's why yo granny ain't got no knees because she can't pray to Jesus, bitch.
Christ.
Pretty sure you hear that, you can pretty clearly imagine how that man murdered someone.
He did take their shoes. Ugh.
Do not
Anyways,
draw attention to the shoes.
no, I think they're perfectly normal shoes. What are you on about? Anyways, the migration of these Slavic peoples occurred around the 6th century, during the time of the migration, of course. However,
But
the area we live in was not populated by these Slavs first. There were other tribes living before that. The first one, well, the first notable one before Neanderthals and rock-throwing troglodytes, were the Celts, more specifically, and I think Tom can actually tell us about them a bit.
okay, so the Celts are what you might think of as proto-Germans, but the boys,
Me and the boys.
it's the tribe's name is actually spelled BOI.
When
The
me and the
boy-
boys found a nation just to throw
Me
people
and-
through windows.
Yes, and why do you think they settled here? There's plenty of high mountains to throw people out of.
Yeah.
Like before the Czech inventors invented windows to make this national pastime a lot more fun, people were throwing each other out of cliffs and through their tents. But that got them stale really quickly, so they invented the window.
Right.
Yeah, it's like when they reinvent the rules of the national pastime to spice it up. Like, basketball used to be boring until they made it faster. Defenstrations used to be boring until they added windows.
I think
Yeah.
I believe we should reinvent the wheel. I believe what we should do is start throwing people through double glass pane windows.
No. What you need is to get your space program working so you can defenestrate people out the airlock.
You are joking, but there were Czech astronauts actually. One of them, namely Jan Hus, was the first documented. Hab is unable to contain his ship.
He burned down at start.
Oh, he burned down at launch, quite sadly. Jan Hus, in all seriousness, was a Catholic priest whose teachings became heresy, and he was burned at the stake.
That does remind me of the, I believe, one very old story of a certain Chinese emperor who wanted to fly in the sky. So what they did was they strapped a bunch of fireworks to his throne, and I think we all know how it ended up.
You
Yeah,
keep saying Jan Hus, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Among Us.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
We agreed on no Among Us memes.
Winston, you are breaking the mission statement. Oh
I
no!
know.
You are unfaithful to the code.
You are.
You are unclean.
Okay, but going back to the supreme forefather of the nation. Does anybody get the joke? The supreme forefather?
I don't know what you're on about.
Please indulge us.
Okay.
I just see a well-dressed man making an offering to the gods.
Well-dressed man? I don't know what you're saying. He looks pretty sparsely dressed.
I mean,
Hey.
he's got that sick-ass cloak.
I swear
Yeah.
to fucking God.
Yeah, the cloak is actually pretty interesting there.
Oh God, what is that below the spear? What did you put over there, Hab?
That
Is
is
the guy with some bands on his leg.
that is Mr. Scarcerus. He was He was a historical figure in the early 6th century, and it is
For
believed
fuck's
that
sake.
he may have walked with our great forefather. Speaking of
Did
the
he
great
have-
forefather, you apparently had some joke in mind?
I can't remember that I do. I don't know what I was on about. About the supreme forefather.
Yeah, that's strange. I
Was
can't
it
quite
about
put
his
my
big
finger on
ass
it.
feet
Yeah,
that he
this
apparently couldn't drag a few thousand more kilometers
His-
to go to the beach?
Oh
his-
yeah.
oh,
Okay,
God.
so we are a landlocked country, but funnily enough, a sea is relatively close by if you're willing to go through Germany.
Or Poland.
is-
The Baltic Sea is around 500 kilometers to the north.
You know, you would mostly want to go through Germany because Poland doesn't exist half the time.
Fair enough.
And going through Germany is also really difficult when Germany usually goes through you. But if this dead ass motherfucker went a couple hundred kilometers south, we would right now be in the warm Mediterranean. Is it Mediterranean?
Technically the Adriatic, but
It's-
you're very close.
It's like over Italy, and Italy is such an inconsequential piece of land. Like, what good has ever come from Italy?
I was gonna say fascism, but I don't think that's good.
Yeah, I think fascism is a German invention.
We're gonna say pasta.
I thought you would say the Renaissance or the Inquisition.
I am a fan of the Renaissance, however, I do not believe that it had a very significant effect on the rest of the world, especially due to the fact that we had the Gothic era, or basically anything Gothic here, almost until the 16th century.
16th?
Almost till the 16th century. We have accepted the Renaissance around 100 years later than most other nations.
So you're telling me that not only do we live in the middle of an ice dragon steppe,
Yes.
freezing off our ass in continental weather because this dead ass motherfucker couldn't walk a few hundred kilometers more.
Yeah.
But we are also in such mountainous area that culture literally cannot transfer over those hills.
You know,
Well,
come for the mountains to throw people off of, stay for the bee-related product.
Oh god, yeah, okay. Winston made a joke about him about Praotec Czech.
So we gotta
slaying
get
a
back on
man.
track.
We have to get back on track. Winston has made a joke about Praotec Czech slaying a man through the power of his words. This man has climbed the mountain, well, mountain in air quotes, called Sheep. Winston, could you try saying that? Sheep.
Fun fact, most Americans cannot actually say that letter. You need to have
Yeah.
quite a few years of voice training, and even then you're never gonna get it right. A lot of Czech people don't get it right.
Yeah, and it's like.
And I can't
Don't even
practice
know
it
if-
because I can't...
I don't even know if noise cancellation is picking this up.
I don't
It's just
think it is.
thinking I'm choking to death. It's just like, no, ain't happening.
I think it picked up on my end though, so I
This is
think we're okay.
also a running theme, trying to kill other people with our language. But this man has climbed this inconsequential hill called Sheep. And from that point on, it obviously stopped being an inconsequential hill. But this man has said that this is the chosen land, full of milk and honey and fruit. Yeah,
But
except
not really, honey.
but not really honey, like wild bee crust. But the thing
Crust
is,
like you get on a compressed JPEG.
oh, we got plenty of those planned. But the problem is that the Czech land is not really full of milk or honey or any good things.
Well,
You got those compressed JPEG bees that sound like they're underwater.
Oh, we got those in a fucking plenteous supply.
one only very considerable amount of material that we have actually had in the past. Now, this is jumping extremely far into the future, but the Atomic Age, we did have quite a lot of a mineral here called smolinets, which in British English is apparently uraninite. And from that, we just got some uranium for the Soviet Union. But however, that's jumping like
I
1300
do
years into the future.
believe, if we're on the topic of jumping into the future, this is gonna be a running gag that you can blame Czechs for just about anything that happens in the world. I think we may have actually helped kill Annie Curie and her husband.
Yeah, Marie Curie Sklodowska, probably.
Uh,
I do
the
believe she had some samples of our uraninite, yes.
No, I think she used exclusively our uranium. Urani.
Uranium.
Uraninite.
Okay, so
Just,
it's
just
it
say
was.
it's just a funny radiation rock.
It's not okay. So they had spicy stones, but uranium is the spicier stone that you need a lot of spicy stones to make.
Yes.
Marie Curie, I think, isolated radium and curium, or
Mhm.
did they name curium after her? Posthumously, because she literally died of cancer, and her laboratory is still a health hazard to this fucking day.
Sklodowska is a Polish character. I do not think we're qualified for Polish history here.
Yeah, to be honest, fuck Poland.
Fuck Poland, fuck Slovakia. What
Oh, yeah,
next?
we have to get into this. Fuck Slovakians and fuck their trigger fucking backstabbing brotherly tendencies, which is also a running theme in Czech history.
Surprisingly.
Throwing people out of windows, backstabbing.
Backstabbing your siblings.
Uh,
A lot of fratricide in Czech history, actually. I could think of like 12 cases from the top of my head, but we
so
keep
I'm just
drifting
gonna
off.
come to record. I'm just gonna come to recording this podcast one time, and it's just gonna be 2 hosts instead of 3.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna be more of a coin toss on which one of us is gonna disappear there.
to be honest, I think I'm gonna be the one that's gonna win this one.
You underestimate my power. Then
Don't
again,
try it.
Then again, us Czechs have also been woefully underestimated in the past. That is another running theme of Czech history.
Also, another running theme of Czech history is stealing shit that is not nailed down. And what has been nailed down is stolen with the nails and whatever it is nailed down to.
Indeed.
And I need to clear my throat. Apologies. But coming back to our Supreme Forefather, he has decided to settle this land that he has stumbled upon after walking not an inconsiderable distance,
At least over 1,000 kilometers.
at least over 1,000 kilometers. He could have went a bit further, but I think that's sort of a lost case at this point. Though we did have access to the Baltic Sea at one point, I think.
I do believe we did have access to the Baltic Sea specifically, yes. During
Yes.
the Przemysliv dynasty.
The Great Moravian Age. Wait,
Nope.
no, okay, correct me on that
I think it shows that not a single one of us is qualified, but I will try to correct you. During the Przemysliv dynasty, which is let's say the peak era is like 200 years after the end of the Great Moravian Empire. So around that time we did have brief access to the Baltic Sea.
Okay, so
Either the
skipping...
Baltic or Adriatic. I can't tell the difference between the north and south.
Once more, we are skipping ahead, but I'm gonna try to pull us in once more. If we come back to our Supreme Forefather, he has settled this land with his people. These people might be refugees, or they might be following a murderer slash super poet.
Supreme poet.
Supreme
Spitting
poet.
mad rhymes.
Spitting rhymes so mad that he has killed lesser man. but they have settled this land. He and his boys, not to be confused with the boys that have actually settled this land. This is a myth, which has been demonstrably proven. If you look at the mythos a little deeper, it tries to supply the meaning, or rather the origins of the names behind other Slavic countries, because praotec Czech had brothers.
Yes,
I
they
think
were
they were
called
brothers.
Lech and Rus. And Lech apparently went north, and that is where essentially Poland was founded. And then Rus, who went east, and I think we all know what came out of that.
Can you guess what came out of the brother Rus's plight?
Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Close
Damn
enough.
right. Damn right.
Okay. And praotec Czech, I believe, had children. And one of those children was Libuše. We're skipping ahead slightly.
We're also going into territory that even I don't know if it's actually correct or not, but hey.
It's okay,
We're meant to be entertaining.
We're gonna get into this, but his daughter, Libuše, was a wee bit of a party animal. As you
As
might
we
have...
all are.
Okay, she was constantly high, apparently, or she was so high that she had prophetic visions.
Ah, yeah.
And
I mean, don't you ever just light a fat one and see how much of a failure you are in the future?
no, I just
What she
line up a
did, was
Winston,
she got a fat one, and she imagined a great city of 100 towers.
whose glory touches the heavens. Yeah, she was talking about
Nowadays-
Prague.
She probably meant another city.
Yeah, probably like somewhere not in the Czech Republic.
I am assuming that she probably meant Rome or Barcelona, because Prague.
What do you mean, Barcelona? You
even
race traitor.
even Barcelona looks
Didn't
better
we-
than the hobo capital of Europe.
Didn't we agree on the fact that Italy is an entirely inconsequential shoe in the sea?
Barcelona is Spanish.
Not only have I failed elementary history, I have also failed elementary geography.
Incredible. How did you graduate?
I have no idea.
I don't think we want to get into that topic.
We don't. We really don't.
Are we even certain he's literate?
I
Keep
don't
seeing
know.
Supreme somewhere, but I don't see Supreme written anywhere.
Do you think he's imagining things?
Yeah. Yeah, I
You
think he
think-
just lit a fat one before this, is just having prophetic visions of being able to read.
Prophetic visions of being able to read.
This is the episode where I get bullied, isn't it?
This is the episode where we all get bullied for our complete incompetence in creating a proper podcast.
Yes.
But
This
that's
is also
that's what we're
humor.
going for.
Yeah, barely structured bullshit.
Nobody said that we had good production value.
It's a
I mean-
train wreck, but it's a beautiful train wreck.
We're trying
Like
to
the
make it
Titanic
beautiful.
on rails.
Oh, train
Except the
wrecks are a
rails got-
modern theme of Czech history.
God, yeah, we'll have to. Okay, skipping ahead once more. We're probably gonna have to talk about how the commies fucked us all in multiple ways. One of which is including why the current prime minister is an oligarch that embezzled European fucking.
That embezzled
Euro-
millions from the European Union.
In like agricultural development funds for like small
Did he s-
firms.
Gotta admit, all I
Did
want
he
to
spend
see.
it all on did he spend it all on tax rebates for porn stars?
bring over that fat Japanese ass over here.
He does look like some person in a porno, you gotta admit.
He actually does look like a fucking serial rapist.
Who's saying he isn't?
He's got a wife and
Yeah,
children
that didn't
and a
stop Bill
son in
Cosby.
Crimea. Oh god, that's another joke that will have to be explained when we get to it. But
back let's say 1400 years in history.
okay, so we were talking about one of Czech's daughter, Libuše, who was the eldest daughter. I think they were her other sisters. I will actually have to look that up, but I'm reasonably sure she had sisters. And she's the legendary ancestor of the Přemysliv dynasty, which is the first ruling dynasty on this throne.
If I recall
And-
correctly, if I may interject for a moment, I believe that the three sisters were called Kazi, Teta, and then there is Libuše.
Okay, so to translate those stupid names, Kazi would be literally ruin. Teta is aunt, like an auntie. Is that how you pronounce it?
Probably.
Probably.
And Libuše translates to, and you won't believe this, Libuše.
Yes. And Libuše was the eldest sister and was supposed to rule the throne. There's a small problem with that. Can you guess what?
She was already dead.
No. I mean, you kind of said the problem in the first place when you referred to her.
She was high off her ass all the time.
She was a woman.
Ooh,
Women couldn't get the throne.
The only
nice
proper
and legal.
The only proper example that we have of that isn't even a properly Czech queen, and that's jumping 1,000 years into the future, so let's not do that.
And okay, I'm actually mistaken. It says that Libuše was the youngest daughter, and she was said to be the wisest one of her sisters. And she was a prophet and an indulgent on hallucinogenic substances, because to keep her place on the throne, get this, she ate enough mushrooms to see her future husband.
Setting a low bar on that wisdom stat, eh?
I just think she had a really high luck stat.
Okay, so her future husband was called Přemysl. Thus the beginning of the Přemyslid dynasty. You know, the Přemyslovci. There's, even if you don't speak Czech, which bless you be. Bless be you or bless be. It's a good thing that you do not speak Czech because Czech is awful. But Přemysl is the starting point of the Czech ruling dynasty. And can you all take a wild guess about how they found him, her future husband?
Was he her mushroom dealer via the divine providence of cow dung?
No.
What is he even saying?
Shit posts. Any
Literally.
idea, Hab?
Maybe, because there was no industry till like the solid 19th century, I'm having a feeling that this guy was just minding his own business at a field.
You would be correct.
Wow.
Because her future husband, was a farmer. Now, for historical preference or historical explanation, this would be like if the Queen of England had sent out her underlings into the streets of London to find one specific hobo eating from one specific kind of tin can. Because in her prophetic vision, she has seen her future husband plowing a field.
I have seen the future and it is brown.
Now, plowing fields is a running theme for Przemysl. Especially plowing that fucking Libuche. I can't go there.
We have to
I
keep in
can't.
mind that Przemysl is actually called Przemysl orać, and orat is a verb that roughly translates to plow, as in plow the fields. That was his
So
actual
he
name.
was literally called Przemysl the Plower.
And he plowed all right, seeing that we had an
Plowing
entire
that
dynasty.
royal pussy all night. Hey.
Yep. While Libusha was high off of mushrooms and seeing the future as he was plowing her fields.
Again, I'm saying that he was probably her dealer, as in he grew the special fun time mushrooms for prophetic visions.
Mm.
And
The legend goes a little deeper because she has told her underlings she has sent out.
He
to
went
get
deep,
him.
all right.
For fuck's sake.
But keep going, please.
But she has told her underlings that they will find the future ruler of Bohemia dining on a field on an iron table. Now, when they found him, they asked him, he turned his plow over and started eating lunch from the plow, which looked like an iron table. So he became king because he turned the plow over.
Our,
of course, all
our
the other
history-
farmers took their plows and turned them upside down and wore them as hats, so
I mean, yeah, this guy was revolutionary using his plow's blade as a table.
I think you'll all be very
his plow
astute
he
to
drove through the
notice.
dirt.
And through Glibushe.
Jeez. I think you'll be very astute to notice that one of the most major themes of our entire history is the fact that a lot of important events are based on complete happenstance and crackpot theories.
Yes, and the best part is that the Przemysl dynasty was funded by this. And this dynasty has spawned many a golden age in the Czech history. They have also done many a fucked up thing in Czech history. And they have been the dynasty that, correct me if I'm wrong here, that have sat on the throne for longest.
Outside the Habsburgs, yes. And the Habsburgs technically aren't Czech. They're Austrian. Or German.
Yeah, but they said, yeah, fuck Germany. This is also a running theme.
Fuck Austria. This is also a running theme.
I mean, the only reason you guys keep your unpronounceable hell language is because Russians also can't pronounce your diesel engine noises.
I mean, to be fair, we have stolen from Russians many things, including words, gold, tanks, and I believe books.
I believe you have stolen a ship as well.
The Czech Navy is the only navy in the world that is yet to be defeated.
And I must actually confirm that after this.
Yeah, but this is what.
How do you have a navy? You're landlocked.
Okay, so
Is
this
this like
will-
the one NATO fucking navy that's just the one
No,
rowboat?
Nah, this is more
no.
hilarious.
This is even better. Okay, so
Massive side note here.
massive tangent here. Back during the First World War, Slavs were notorious for deserting. You know why they deserted? Especially Czechs. Because they didn't want to fight other Slavs. They looked at the other Slavic people as their brothers. So they deserted. And enough Czech people deserted into Russia to start a legion there. They were called the Czech legionaries. And said legionaries kind of gotten stuck in Russia when the communist revolution happened. And so they were trying to make their way home through the Siberian fucking waste.
And
But they couldn't take.
They
The
took
best part is, okay, Hab was probably going to say this, but they couldn't take the short way because there was the front.
Yes.
So they had to go around the fucking world to get back to the Czech Republic. And that meant going through the entire Gulf of Russia and Siberia. Are you still following along, Winston?
Yes, Foreign Legion forms because apparently Czechs didn't want to commit fratricide, which that part threw me for a loop a little bit.
It's not fratricide since they're not blood related.
Uh,
Yeah, it's only more like a metaphorical fratricide, so it still doesn't count. But they have went through the Siberian wastes. Now, you might imagine going through Siberia as a unified military force is kind of difficult, especially when said military force is composed entirely of deserters. And so what they did is build infrastructure in Russia. In
Now-
like middle of nowhere. I do believe they started funding banks.
Now, also keep in mind one other thing that appeared in Siberia before the Tsarist regime fell was a certain little railroad. Well, little, it spanned across most of Siberia, and I believe this is a very hilarious part. The Czech legionaries took control of that entire railroad away from the Bolsheviks and used that to get away from them.
They literally stolen the Trans-Siberian Railroad. Now, speaking of other things they have stolen, the Russian gold, which we'll come back to later because it's also hilarious. But, as you might imagine, you cannot cross the entire world around because the world is a globe and fuck you, the earth is not flat.
The Earth is not a
you-
cube, and most importantly, there is a lot of water.
You cannot cross water with a train.
I mean, you can try.
You can
cannot do
try.
it successfully.
You can try once.
Yeah. So, the Czech legionaries have commanded a ship. By commanded, I mean steal. They have stolen a ship.
Because we love stealing
And-
stuff.
They wanted to drive said ship out of port, which the port authority, for whatever reason, did not want them to do. So you know what the Czechs did?
They filed a complaint.
They started shooting from the fucking boat they stolen, pulling a
Yes,
drive-by on the port authority.
Yeah, it says, that's how you file a complaint in certain neighborhoods.
With a 20 millimeter gun.
Yes.
Okay, I'm kind of happy I live in Czech Republic where complaints are actually done with, words and not 20 millimeter guns.
Yes, the kind of words that kill a person, have you exiled thousands of kilometers away.
I mean, it's still more humane than being shot. As you just go down crying.
Uh, I'm about to cry because we have strayed so far from the original topic. I do not even remember where we left off.
We left off on Libuše being high and fucking a farmer.
Yeah, I think you left off on the guy just. I
We
don't know
left.
how
Oh,
stealing
I
came
remember.
into
I
it.
remember. We left off on discussing how we actually had access to the sea for a while, but I cannot confirm which sea it actually was because I am a brainlet.
Okay, So the funny thing is, uh, in another legend, which okay, so this is ancient Czech history, and some of it is not really ancient. The image you see before you, or the image you see in the beginning, was the image you see in the beginning was definitely made by Josef Madhauser, which was a Czech romantic painter who was born in 1846 and died in 1917, which, if you can count, is a quite a way of history from the 9th century when Libusche lived, and apparently the 8th century when the Praotext Czech came to our fucking land.
I am assuming the 6th, but you know,
Yeah,
nothing
this is
can
myth.
be accurate here.
This is myth, like the most widely agreed upon portrayal of this history comes from the Polish. Not from Czech sources, but from Polish sources.
It's like I wouldn't say it's like the most agreed upon, but it's definitely the most interesting one because that's where the concept of the three brothers comes from.
Okay, so in another legend, Libusche commanded her counselors to found a city at the place where they found the man making the best use of his teeth at midday. Let me run that by you again. Libusche got high once again and told her counselors to start founding a city, as in start building a city at the place where they found a man making the best use of his teeth at midday.
Were the teeth inside or outside of his head at that point?
Just teeth.
Teeth.
And they set off and they found a man sawing a block of wood using a saw. Do you know what a saw has, Winston?
Oh my god. Ugh.
A saw has teeth.
Is every prediction
When
she gonna make just be a massive pile of puns
it
and
gets
riddles?
better, it gets better. He was working while everybody else was eating.
At midday.
So he was making the best use of his teeth because the saw was his.
I do
Do
not
you see
understand
this
what you're getting
bullshit?
What
at
was
here.
what there are thousands of other woodworkers, but they didn't qualify because they were all just renting their saws?
No, because they were sitting around eating because it was midday and this guy was working, thus making the best use of his teeth.
What are you getting at?
Okay, why don't you
I just
understand
built a
this?
city on top. I get it. I get it. The saw has teeth. He is making use of the teeth.
Yes.
And they are his teeth because he owns the saw, but you apparently did not get the further joke that there was a woodworker. There were thousands of other woodworkers who were working during the mid-hour, but didn't qualify because they were renting saws or using their neighbor's saws. And that is
Because
why
they
you live in the butt-fuck middle of nowhere.
No, that is why Prague is where it is and it's not over here.
Hmm.
Because this is how they founded Prague, our capital
That's
city.
why Prague is where it is, and that's why it is how it is. Because
Because there are people.
Prague itself has unfortunately, over the course of many wars, stayed mostly historical. At least there's a very large and considerable historical core to the city.
Please do not
Unfortunately,
obscure my drug talking. Keep your city burning to yourself for a minute longer, please. Okay, so they
Are
ask
the
this
porn
man.
star are the
Okay,
porn stars in Prague also renowned for being good with their teeth?
yeah, by not putting their teeth where they aren't supposed to. Wow, that one landed flat, didn't it?
Oh, what a disaster.
That one landed really flat.
Oh, what didn't land flat today?
Um, the planes on the 9/11, I guess.
Since when are we discussing the history of America?
I mean, I'd be up for discussing Grant's March to the Sea. Fuck
What?
Georgia.
Okay,
I
so
mean, you talk about stealing an entire railway, but did you rip it out of the ground and tie it around a fucking tree? I don't
what?
think so.
Okay, give you the quick rundown here.
Okay, Okay, General Sherman. Civil War, you know how it's going. Abraham Lincoln's like, yo, fuck the South. So he sends General Sherman to fuck up the entire state of Georgia, and Sherman marches from one end to the other, lighting everything on fire.
What?
And he also needs to sabotage the railways, so you can't just dig it up because they'll just put it back down. You need to dig it up, turn it into a fucking twisty tie around a tree so they can't easily extract this railway. So you just have this pile of scrap metal around a tree that's just a middle finger to the south.
What? Is this Ohio will be eliminated, but with the state of Georgia?
Is why does this seem all of a sudden more interesting than the topic we have talked about?
Okay, let me finish this dumb, fucking, his dumb drug trip. They asked the woodworker what he was making, and he told them he was making a pra, a threshold, like the part between the door and the floor, which you use to seal the room. Yeah, because the door doesn't go all the way to the ground. In Czech, that word is prach. And if you think about how the capital city is called, it is called Prague. So Libuše has gotten high, told her ministers to found a new capital city. They went out and did it, and they did it because a man was carving a piece of wood at midday with his own saw, not anybody else's saw.
When he should have just had his lunch.
I mean, in that case, the fucking Czech capital would have been called Sandwich.
I mean, they already have a city named Sandwich, so sure.
I mean, at least it wouldn't be called Hamburger. God, imagine having a city called like Hamburger.
Oh, that probably exists though.
Yeah, it does. It's called Hamburg.
Yeah, and it's a pretty important port in Germany.
I dislike Germany. I dislike Italy. I do not respect any nation whatsoever.
We do not even respect our own nation at this point.
Yeah, we don't. If you look at the fucking video right now, we do not respect our nation's history at all.
We do not respect our audience.
No, we don't. We do not respect anybody. And that's what makes it fun.
We do not
Just
respect
being-
anybody, not even ourselves, and that's what makes
Are
it
we
quite
respecting the
entertaining.
time? Are we
The what?
respecting the time because it's been an hour and a half?
Oh god, we aren't respecting the time either.
We have been going for, I'm gonna hazard a guess and say 15 minutes, because if I recall correctly, the recording is going since like 10:30 p.m.
Oh god.
This has made it a very long pilot episode filled with many things that we would consider to be a side
Barely
note.
structured.
Barely structured bullshit and a lot of well-structured side notes.
Just
Oh,
held together
God.
by popsicle sticks and chewed using gum.
And Winston's stupid joke about sauce.
Which is so stupid that I still don't get it.
You don't. Okay.
I have slept
So-
for 3 hours, man.
Let
It's
me
because
explain
you
it to you.
You very deliberately mentioned that it was his saw. Like there was a joke that there was someone else using a borrowed saw
Oh my
that
fucking
disqualified
god,
him.
that's
It
such a
didn't have to
shitty
name it
joke.
after. You're the one who made it.
I
You're the one who made it.
didn't make it. Tom did.
The one who make it. Okay, what I was doing, I was quoting how it is in our notes.
Our barely structured notes.
Yes, which are
Full
barely
credits.
structured and absolutely bullshit.
Trademark, copyright, do not steal.
This is
My
our
OC
podcast
don't
OC.
steal.
I'm not
Don't steal.
I'm not trademarking this.
Is that what our OC of the little man standing on the shoe is? Donut steal?
Oh.
God, are we going to trademark this man's flannel?
We cannot just trademark Scarsus's flannel. Come on, man. He was
Okay,
a,
do
he
you
was a
want-
very important historical figure.
Do you want to hear something awful?
The fact that we've been going for an hour? Sure.
Is something even worse?
And what is it?
There is a town in Louisiana, in the United States of America, called Libouche, which has been founded in the year 1914 by Czech immigrants and named after Libouche, the same Libouche who has been smoking mushrooms, naming cities after sauce.
Hang on. Hey. Hey, you wanna go into Libusha?
Oh God. Do you want to plow into Libouche?
Christ.
Is
Do
the
you
entire
want to-
town just going to be an entire clusterfuck mess, entirely pound?
We should cut this short sooner before it turns into like a sleep deprivation podcast.
I got another one. Do you want to ride into Libouche?
Oh my god.
No, it gets even worse. As of 2011, fundraising has commenced for a future Louisiana Czech museum to be built in Libouche. The tribal office of the Tamale Band of Apache is located in Libouche. So not only have the Czechs emigrated into America, they also made contact with the natives.
We are an incredible nation.
We are an incredible nation.
The only question is someone going to get high off their tits on mushrooms to figure out where to put the museum and then just come up with a shitty riddle to solve it?
No,
It's
when
Louisiana,
Libouche-
aren't they always high in Louisiana?
God,
I mean, I think that's probably the only thing
Louisiana
to
looks
do down
like
there.
yeah, it looks awful. It's like sad. God,
It's
yeah.
in the south.
Louisiana looks like the fucking Vysočina of Czech Republic.
Oh god.
Just like boring, awful, and plain.
You say that, but the city of Brno.
Oh God, do not get me started on Brno.
Oh.
But the funny thing is, Libouche might have been talking about Libouche when she was talking about seeing a city of 100 towers whose fame will touch the sky because we are using the internet and that is using the satellites and this information is touching the sky.
Yes, but didn't she also say that messages using the sky should be illegal, rock should be illegal, babies should be illegal, the color blue should be illegal?
Why should the color
Yeah,
blue be
that's-
illegal?
Because God told her it should be illegal.
Was
Oh,
God,
God,
it was the pagan gods that told her, hey,
Okay,
no blue.
the thing is, back then they weren't really Christian, despite what the Czech National Rebirth Movement wants to tell you. They were pagans, and they were uncultured, dirty pagans which will lead into our hopefully next episode.
Where we get
you're-
into boat paddles.
I
we
hope.
get to so much worse than both paddles. We
You're
get to...
awfully optimistic about us having a second episode.
Oh, I am. But where we might get into boat paddles, how we are responsible for the Greek and Russian alphabet, despite what Hab might say, and how we sort of started the trend of the intelligent people emigrating from our lands.
In the next two
Alright. I
episodes.
I mean, you say that's
yes.
going to be the next episode, but it's probably going to be on Sherman's March to the Sea, because fuck having anything in order.
Yeah, and
Mm.
fuck having anything in order. Fuck having anything Czech related in the podcast about Czech history.
It's barely structured.
Seeing as we were just
gonna be-
talking about the United States for quite a while, I think I can see the point.
God damn it, Winston. You mean as barely structured as the railway when Sherman was done with it?
It was very well structured around trees.
Oh god, okay. This has been barely structured bullshit. I guess the next episode we're gonna talk about America for a change.
Now,
Literally out of time and out of sync.
now,
But
what do we
if-
wanna ask you guys if you're
or for,
actually
like,
watching?
the one person who's been listening to this drivel the entire time.
Possibly on a
is-
possibly on a heroin trip.
On mushrooms. I bet you the one person who's been listening to
inspiration.
this entire thing is very patriotic and is doing it while being on mushrooms. But the thing is, with this is sort of a we aim to be fun. I hope this episode was funny. But
For someone, clearly.
I mean, I've been having a fucking blast. But the problem is sort of that we're doing this for fun. And we intend to do this for fun as long as the fun lasts and as long as we have fun topics. And judging by our notes documents, there's a lot of fun topics in Czech history, at least. Well, we're starting off weak, but where do you start? You know, at the beginning.
This is gonna get progressively more bizarre.
It's
There
gonna
may
get
there may
so
be some
insane.
there may be some tiny pauses, but most of the history is just going to be batshit crazy.
So, what we want to say is what we intend to do with this madness. And since it's a primarily fun-filled thing, we're sort of going to be going off on tangents. If you want something extremely historically accurate, go watch some fucking Great Courses Plus, or I don't know, just lube your ass and sit on a fucking history textbook. We're gonna be mainly going into Czech history. If Winston wants to provide some other fun examples, such as Sherman's autistic march against the railroad, then he might do so.
General Sherman's Bizarre
It
Adventure.
is
I'm up for
mostly
that.
just arson.
It is
General
literally
Sherman's-
JoJo.
General Sherman's Bizarre Adventure.
Hey,
Damn
there's
it.
a reason why they named an arson locomotive after him.
And a what?
Arson
An
locomotive.
arson locomotive.
Is it like a company that makes like locomotives called arson, or is it a literal locomotive that sets shit on fire?
It's a joke. You know that M4 Sherman? That's
Yeah.
named after him
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
reason.
Because it has a flamethrower? Because it's
because
also
it's-
made
No,
out
they
of
had
train
Barbarian
track
back then.
metal.
Because it could catch fire very easily. Oh no, the
Is it
tank is on
because the
fire.
Is it because the Sherman is made out of train track metal?
No, it just lights things on fire and just destroys everything. It's great.
All right. Speaking of
Fuck the
destroyed things,
Wereboos with their Tiger One.
speaking of destroyed things, like the structure of this sort of debrief.
We have tried to say what we intend to do with this podcast, and we failed to do even that. And I think we're off to a
Yes.
fantastic start.
We are on to an amazing start, and Hab is gonna have a blast of a time editing this bullshit.
Oh God,
I
he's gonna
think-
try and edit it.
I don't think it's possible to edit this. I'm just gonna see if there are like any long pauses in the start. But I don't think there are, seeing as I timed everything. Because
Yeah,
I am
sort of.
extremely punctual about it. I
Yeah,
don't
you are the
think-
least punctual person I know.
Yeah, fair enough. We are in a podcast where I don't think we have made any points clear. But
Yeah, okay.
to get
So-
back to the end, our intent
For like 12 minutes.
our intent is to make this funny, entertaining, and we want to see if it will have some sort of an outreach if you like this stuff. We want you to tell us about it. We want you to tell us your opinions of this pilot episode.
Like, comment, subscribe,
Oh God, Winston.
hit the bell.
Don't even joke about that. Or I'm gonna add one of those. I'm gonna add one of those chroma key subscribe like animations with the bell sound. Very annoying bell sound.
No.
Okay, can you two please let me speak for a minute? The idea is, as Hap said, we want to make this fun. It's obviously barely structured bullshit most of the time, but we're trying to keep the history. We're trying to keep the European history, but if something is extremely funny, we're gonna, catch on to it. Like General Sherman's arson Marson. Was General Sherman like a heavy metal player? Or like did he what was he in the band Rammstein because of all of the pyrotechnics and all of the fire all of the time?
Oh, we're getting into dad jokes territory.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we are.
I think we've crossed that threshold quite a
A
while
long
back.
time ago.
Pretty sure the
1400
moral
years.
of this episode is do drugs, make riddles, and kill people with your fat fucking rhymes.
Yes. All right. With that, we're ending the first episode of barely structured bullshit after being unable to tell you what do we even want to do with this barely structured bullshit. Just that it will eternally remain barely structured bullshit. I've been Tom.
Vinstone.
Finstone, and I have been Hab. Now, I do not have any very creative or appropriate words to leave with, so I'm just gonna
I
say
don't think
bye-bye.
any of this has been appropriate.
None of this has been appropriate.
None of this has been appropriate either politically or contextually
or
factually.
racially. You know,
Racially, we're kind of omnicidal right here.
Homicidal. Oh god.
Both suicidal and homicidal. Anyway, with that bombshell, see you all next time.
See ya, guys.
See you in hell where we all belong.